Okay, we just finished video number one. Let's move on to video number two. I'm not going to cover multiple domain in video number two. I'm going to skip to FLO-2D Gila updates. So multiple domain, it has a plugin update, which is awesome. You're going to like it a lot. And it has a engine update. So I want to cover that in a more extensive video, and it's going to get its own training. So its training is coming in uh, May 6th. So go ahead and register for that training. And in May 6th, we're going to do a 2-hour workshop. Will be hands-on workshop so you can learn how to use multiple domain methods. So let's skip over to the FLO-2D Gila updates. All right, let's go ahead and load the documentation, and let's load the installation instructions, and let's go to let me get that back to the homepage. Let's go to the product drop-down menu and go to QGIS plugin, but let's just open it in a new tab so that all of our stuff is together over here. Okay, so installation instructions. Well, first of all, let's do this first. So FLO-2D plugin. So if you have a FLO-2D plugin and you want to know what version of QGIS to use with your FLO-2D plugin, you can come to this table on our website. And you can see here that we just released this plugin yesterday. No, actually, it looks like I've released it today, because as soon as we released the FLO-2D plugin, like a week or two ago, I think it was last week, QGIS had already released a new version, a new long-term release, and the plugin immediately broke. So Robson spent like 2 days fixing the plugin and getting it working on QGIS 3.44, and that is this one right here. So back to our documentation. So if you go to our installation instructions and you see this warning, I actually taken this warning off, but I didn't update the instructions. But if you see this warning, note that we already fixed that. That's okay. You can use it. So if you use the latest long-term release, that's option A. If you want to use a standalone installer like 3.40, that's option B. 3.40 is an excellent build of FLO-2D. So if you want to use that, you go to option B. And what you have here is an installation archive. So if you click on that button and then you do Control F, you can do 3.40.15, and that'll take you right to the correct version that you want to install. And you just download that MSI installer, and you can use that like a normal installation. If you don't know how to do that, the instructions are right here on how to do that, okay? Now, if you're a little bit more sophisticated, or you like doing development, or you want to add your own modules, you can use this version, which is the network installer. So the network installer is cool because it allows you to install development versions. It allows you to install all kinds of different Python modules and manage everything with a single installer. And that's this guy right here. So that should just take you to the QGIS download page, where you can download QGIS using the OSG network installer. And you can see right here the instructions. The first thing I do, I set it up with Express install first, because that gives you like the baseline of what you want. And then with my Express install, this is, of course, I don't normally get this one because it's normally one that doesn't work, hasn't been tested with the plugin yet. So I normally get this one and these two here. Click Next, and that will install all the dependencies in one go. Then, after you're done with that, you might need a few more dependencies, so you run through it again. And the second time that you run through it, you use the advanced install. I thought I was going to have a button for that. Nope, I did not have a button for that. Okay, so you finish it, you run it again, and this time select advanced install. Everything essentially stays the same, except when you get to packages, you want to add the missing packages. So we want H5Py, netcdf4, and then you run that, and that will install. Not only will that install that version of H5Pi, and I think it's like 3.11 at this point, but that will also give you the dependencies. So if you install H5Pi and NetCDF, it will also install extra dependencies, as you can see here. And then you can verify the installation. This is just a little blurb to show you how to do that, which means running the shell and verifying what version of the Python, or excuse me, of the uh, those utilities that you have. So you can say Python, and then you can run these commands in the shell, and it'll tell you what versions you have. So I'm kind of a mind that we recommend you to use this version of the installer, but this one's also working pretty good right now. And then how do you set up your profile? You set up your QGIS profile, you set up your plugin. Sorry, no, you install QGIS and then you set it up by going to Settings, Options, and you want to go to the CRS handling and set that up. And then you want to install the FLO-2D plugins and any other plugins that you want. Now, we are installing the FLO-2D plugin a little bit differently. We have two methods. You know, we used to do install from zip, and that method is still available. So if you want to use that method, you come here and you download your plugin, and then you use that install from zip method, and it's a very good way to install the FLO-2D plugin. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to maintain our own plugin repository so that you can get updates on the fly. So you can add this repository with the settings tool and then connect to it, and it'll give you FLO-2D Gila and MapCrafter. And so you can install them. But it's not necessarily super buggy, but I've found that sometimes you might have to uninstall FLO-2D and then maybe restart QGIS to get it to work. But I've had some users have used it, and the last person that I interacted with said that he just had to do it 3 times and then it worked. So if you get an error, if you're trying to use this method and you get an error, uninstall uninstall FLO-2D, and then if you have to, restart it and then try to add it again and install it, and it should work. Third time might be a charm. And then if you do use Quick Map Services, this just shows you how to add more, how to get more services and stuff like that. Older versions of the FLO-2D plugin are available, and this shows you how to set up a profile for an older version of the plugin. And you can create a new profile and set up a different version of QGIS with a different plugin. And that's also pretty excellent thing that QGIS lets you do, is build separate profiles for different kinds of projects. Okay, that is installation instructions, but we also have the FLO-2D Gila documentation. And it's kind of the same as it's always been, but we've just filled out a little bit more of it. So if you have the FLO-2D installed on your computer, this is your FLO-2D toolbar. These are your FLO-2D layers. These are your FLO-2D table editor and plotting tool. We have new rendering buttons. This is your grid info tool. These are your editor widgets, and these are some configuration buttons. Now, how does the manual work? Well, basically it goes in order of the position of these buttons from left to right and top to bottom. So if you're on the toolbar, you can see that the FLO-2D project will be the first button, and import export will be second button, and then you have individual content for that, for those individual tools. Okay. And widgets are the same thing. It's just top to bottom follows this order. And if you click on, like, say, for example, grid tools, it has a submenu that points you to individual tools. So for example, create a grid will show you that you have to have a computational domain in order to create a grid. So it shows you how to set up a computational domain and then how to use that domain to create the grid. Now, if you have an external domain, like in our tutorial, you'll use an external domain with a cell size and click OK. If you are using grid tools, if you are using number 5, There are many different processors in number 5 in your grid elevation correction tools. There are many different processors. So this goes through instructions with YouTube videos to show you how to use the various elevation processors. And yeah, so there's a lot of instructions on here, but I'm missing some elevation images. I'll have to fix that later. Okay, I'll take note of that. All right, and of course there is also the technical reference manual that tells you how to do or how our processors work. Tells you how our processors work. So example, how our elevation processors work, how our um, how our rainfall interpolators work, how our infiltration interpolators work, and also, in addition to that, we also have, and I don't use these two, so I would say you can just skip those two, but I do use this. And this is just basically the structure of HDF5, which we covered very extensively in video number 1. So you can go back to previous video and you'll get that. All right, so that is the QGIS plugin installation, download, documentation, and of course the plugin links right here. So again, FLO-2D toolbar, grid info panel, FLO-2D layers, extra layers, open and close these windows, and the editor widgets. All right, we are at 11 minutes, so I'm going to stop this video and we'll move on to the next one to do FLO-2D results and scenarios.